How good, what a week if you bleed blue, if you support teams wearing that colour, you've had yourself one of the great 7 days. Of course, the mighty New South Wales Blues getting up last night, absolutely pounding those Queensland losers into the core of the earth, and then the Blues winning the Super Rugby, massive dominant performance there too. So looking forward to chewing the fat and covering off both of those wins on today's pod. Another important win, which a lot of you actually care about. Really enjoy getting your DMs on a Saturday arvo, checking in to hear how the coat has gone off the back of me spinning that rhetoric here on the podcast. A big win for the boys last week, got up over Massey, 22 points to 15. A huge result for our season, and fair to say, first 40 minutes prior to Oranges, it didn't look like we were going to come away with the chocolates. Down 12-0 after Massey got off to a fast start. Second half though, off the back of one of the great Gus Gould rev-ups from our coach and skipper Surly, the boys dug deep, 22 points to 3. We won the second stanza and came away with the dub, which secures us a home semi-final, a couple weeks off as well, don't have to play in the quarters, plus it locks up North Harbour's version of the Ramfurly Shield, the old Les Pierce, for the summer. That's guaranteed to be with us on Mad Monday, so absolute scenes there. Semi-final, I think that goes down the weekend of the 13th of July, so a chance for the old boy myself to put the feet up, rest the rig. Been playing 80-minute shifts, so I'm looking forward to giving the body a bit of a break. And saying that though, we do have a team steam up tonight, Thursday night, of course, Matariki tomorrow, so we'll enjoy that public holiday. The culture doesn't stop, and you've got to love that. Shout out as always, of course, to the legends at the TAB. They're the headline sponsor of this podcast. For those that tuned in last week, you would have heard that special code that will get you some bonus cash in return for having a punt on the Warriors game. Well, this week, the code is back as well. It went so good last week that we're going to run it back, so it's pretty much the same deal. Have a punt on the Warriors versus Broncos game, and the TAB will match whatever you spend on that game in bonus cash into your account, up to $50. It's for the first 100 customers only to claim the code. The code this week is STS50, and if you want to know where to chuck it in, you click your balance top right corner. There'll be a little drop box off the back of that. You click bonus cash, then you type the code in there in the coupon. The letters in capitals, STS50. 50. Surely you're picking up what I'm putting down there. Then you head along to the Warriors versus Broncos. You place a bet on any of the options. Could be power plays, head-to-head, winning team and margin, same game multi, whatever you like, as long as it is under that Warriors-Broncos game. If you're a real rooster, you'll chuck it on the Surly boost. Then whatever you chuck on, up to $50, the TAB will match that in bonus cash straight into your account. You can then spend that bonus cash on whatever you like, any sport, any fixture. It will expire though in 7 days time. So shout out to the TAB, really appreciate them for getting behind the Surly Talk Sports Pod and giving us these exclusive codes for the STS listeners. So looking forward to making the most of that again this weekend. Shout out as well to Better Bear. Of course, I'll have my Better Bear best performance of the week coming up later in the pod. I'm sure most of you watched that game last night could probably already work out who it is, but it is the Bear of Sport. She's only 87 calories, 0 carbs, good on the rig. So if you are cracking open a few Tinny Lalas this weekend, couple Darren Frothiers, Scooey, Moi, Simon Cannerings, whatever you like to call them, then head along to your local bottle shop and grab yourself a case of Better Bear. You won't regret it. But without further ado, plenty to chew through today, so let's get into it. How good? Absolute tracker, and of course that one right there is in honour of the shift that the mighty New South Wales Blues put in last night. Game 2 of State of Origin. Backs against the wall, the lads had to go to Melbourne and win it in order to force a decider, and they certainly did that off the back of an emphatic performance, a clinic, a decimation, complete domination, 38 points to 18 it finished. But fair to say, the game was done and dusted. The queue was in the rack at half-time. Can't remember a better 40 minutes in Origin history, at least in the last couple years. And fair to say, Madge had the boys up and about, fired up, for this encounter. It was a hot start from us, instant impact from Mitch Moses too. Straight away his ball playing and his long kicking game was a massive improvement from what Nico Hines dished up, and it's sad for Hines, but unfortunately, as long as there's Cleary, Moses, Luai, guys like that, Matty Burden even in this New South Wales system, then I can't see him getting another opportunity. Moses, he came out the gates, one dog at Wanganui, clearly with a point to prove, back to full health and playing some great code. He turned on the first try for Liam Martin too. Beautiful little short ball, delicious stuff. Liam Martin, shout out to him. He was a grub all day too. Got binned, but we'll touch on that a bit later on. But it was a beautiful change of direction from him, which saw him slice through a hole. And geez, he would have been returning healthy money too for all punters that got on him to score the first try. My notes here from this game, because of course, as I'm watching these games, I'm jotting down notes on my iPhone. Real sicko stuff, but it's just so I don't miss anything when I cover her off today in my review. I had first 20 minutes, New South Wales, so physical, bumping blokes off left, right and centre. I think we saw glimpses of this in the first game too, but of course due to that send-off to Joseph Suaalii, we didn't see it have quite a big an impact as we did in this game. It just seems like that New South Wales pack is so much more big and physical than that Queensland pack at the moment. I'd be surprised if Billy doesn't make a few changes. Guys like Payne in the Haas, Liam Martin, Angus Crichton, even Jake Trbojevic in the 20-odd minutes he played, Spencer Leniu, Hamole Olakau'atu off the bench. They were just having their way with the Queensland forwards, dominating the collisions when they were carrying ball, putting on some massive shots on D2. First 20 minutes, New South Wales had 64% of the possession and were just truly all over the top of the Maroons. It resulted in a second try as well in the 19th minute to Brian To'o off a nice little flick pass from Trelly Mitt. From here, this is where the floodgates opened, and I think it was the fatigue that New South Wales was able to put on this Queensland side in that opening stanza by dominating possession and territory that really came back to hurt Billy's boys across this next 20-minute gap. 23rd minute, Zach Lomax, aerial threat on display, great short kick from Mitchell Moses, and then Zach does what he does best, old low job, loves getting elevated, took a specky on the MCG over the top of Murray Talangi, real AFL type of stuff from him. He's so strong in the air, and it was good to see Zach again with another strong shift, backing up that impressive performance from Origin 1. Then off the back of that try, Reece Walsh probably did the worst thing you could do possible, and to be fair, Walshy, he was pretty rattled throughout this whole game. I thought he was quiet, and every time the cameras cut to him, it looked like he was in a world of hurt. Clearly New South Wales had the target again to go after him, and I thought they did a great job in this occasion, but Walshy put the kickoff out on the full. New South Wales rolled down the paddock. Jerome Luai on the 5th takes about 30 seconds to put his boot on. Great stuff from him, and then we score one of the more embarrassing tries that I can remember. Surely, if you got 30 seconds up your sleeve, a nice break there, you come together, you come up with a plan, at least on how to defend that set, ride it out, and then go again. Mitchy Moses, eyes up footy from him. He saw Walshy on the right side of the field, late switch to the left, cheeky little perfect way to grab it, and it saw Brian To'o go in to score. 25 minutes in, New South Wales had one missed tackle, Queensland had 20. Crazy scenes. To add to the hurt hammer, he went off with a bit of a stinger in the shoulder, lots of talk it was AC joint. Clearly he went to Cortisone City because he came back on later in the game, which was great for my multi, and shout out to all of those that jumped on too. We had Trelly Mitt to score, Hammer to score, New South Wales to win as well, paying $11 of the best. Chucked it up on my story, a lot of you jumped on, and great to see green ticks on bet slips throughout this game. I was getting sent some massive ones, whoppers, winning multiple thousands of dollars, which always brings a smile to my dial. Shout out to Payne Haas, his first stint on the paddock, he racked up 126 metres as well, and every metre he ran for brought a smile to my face again, because in the back of my mind I was thinking, great, that's more wear and tear on his body, and another reason for Kevy Walters not to send him over the ditch to take on the Warriors this weekend. I thought our New South Wales left side attack was on fire, and shit were we making Queensland pay. Valentine Holmes, Cherry Evans, they were being put through the ringer. Val, he clearly prioritised Ziploc bags over tackle bags in his off-season, and it's really starting to show. He was being turned into a turnstile. Trell Mitt was having his way with him on every carry. You can't have those two defending together for me. There was lots of chat pre-game around potentially switching Hammer to that edge, and I think that's something Queensland are going to have to look into. They might also have to look into Cobbo over Val, because his form in clubland hasn't really warranted it, and last night he was a leaky sieve on defence, and that led to another try too. Old Valentine Crichton, a beautiful flick ball resulting in a try to Trelly Mitt. That's it. Origin Trell, is there anyone better? 28-0 after 34 minutes. Fair to say I was messaging all the Queenslanders in my life and telling them how shit their team is. Then Spencer Leniu off the bench for his first carry, hit it with a head of steam. Holy dooly, probably 30 odd PCMs, got through 3 or 4 would-be defenders, and that again just reinforced the size and punch we have off our bench far outweighs that of the Maroons. Then big game Crichton did one of his trademark intercepts right on halftime as well, just as Queensland was starting to get some good field position. Ran 70 odd metres, repeat set off the back of that. Jerome Luai kicked 3 of them throughout this game, and I thought he was unreal too. Repeat set, and it leads to points. Crichton again glides straight past Murray Taulagi, flick pass, and Lomax has his second. 34-0 at Oranges. Crazy scenes, and it was literally as Gus Gould said twice in the halftime coverage, just to ram it home in case people missed it the first time. It was men against boys. That's what it looked like. Fully developed adult humans up against kids about to go through puberty. Every physical collision, attack or defence, New South Wales were dominating, and it was like we were running downhill. I almost didn't believe it. The old splash of water at halftime, because I thought I was in a daydream. Very pleased to say I wasn't, and it was just a clinic from our lads in the first 40. Second half, fair to say that evened things up a little more. 4 points to 18. You could argue Queensland take plenty of positives out of that to take into game 3. It started with some spirit too. Liam Martin got sin bin for rubbing Jaden Sewer in the head off the back of an error. I'm sorry, Ashley Klein, but that has to be one of the softest sin bins I've ever seen. Right up there with Rogers' one against the Titans on the weekend. That was a piss take. And then Chanel Harris-Tavita against the Cowboys for getting sent to the bin for grade 3 dangerous contact on a Steadin. That was also a joke. But Liam Martin's one for rubbing a head also has to be up there, especially in the Origin arena. And I get what he was trying to do. The game was starting to get a bit of push and shovey, but let the boys sort it out. I have no doubt they would have. Instead, Marto goes to the bin. Kerrigan goes to the bin for running in and getting involved too. No one was going to throw anything. It would have just fizzled off, and I hate to see guys being sent to the bin. At least it was one apiece though, and that kind of nullified any effect it had on it. But at the same time, if someone drops a ball, you're going to get up in their face, especially if it's a pivotal moment in the game. If you don't like it, shit, Ashley Klein would struggle refereeing club footy, grassroots stuff, because that happens 20 to 30 times every weekend. You can bet your bottom dollar on it. But Queensland, they scored some nice tries off the back of repeat sets. Jeremiah Nanai going over, Murray Taulagi going over too, and the hammer to salute for the multi. That's now 9 tries in 6 Origin games. The bloke is an attacking freak. Good to see Dylan Edwards dot down for the last try of the game for the Blues. What a debut from him. I often compare him to our fullback in Chance Nickel-Klokstad. High work rate, always popping up around the ball. The support play through the ruck is bloody outstanding too, and I thought he was great in this game. He's not the biggest body, but somehow he just manages to avoid contact, and when he does get caught up in the wrestle, he's so strong too. Pound for pound, he's got to be right up there, and I thought that really did signal the start of the Edwards era. Teddy, he's been one of the greats in the 1 jersey for New South Wales, but I'm certainly convinced more than ever now that this is Dylan Edwards' time, and he will wear that jersey for a very long time to come. My final point in my notes was the 64th minute. Latrell Mitchell gets his hands on Reece Walsh. He picks him up, he drags him backwards, drops him safely on the ground, because I was a little worried. Latrell, he can get carried away at times, and that was right on the tipping point, but he dropped him safely. Then massive dog shot over the top while he's on the ground, just cleaned him up and really rubbed salt into the wound. Good to see when he got up too, massive smile on his face. You love to see that. That is the Origin trail that New South Wales needed and the trail that we got. He was into everything, so involved, chirping left, right and centre. He loves the big stages and he certainly delivered last night, and I thought that moment really did sum him up and the game up as well. Queensland just getting ragdolled. You love to see it. In terms of my standouts for me, look, you could highlight everyone 1 to 17 in the Blues in particular. Mitchy Moses, he walked away with the player of the day, and he was also my Better Bear best performer. Hard to go against him, to be fair. 4 try assists. That alone at Origin level is a playmaking masterclass. He also tied the most try assists in Origin history. I think it was Freddie Fittler back in 2000 that also dished up 4. Some of his pass selections and just the way he led the team around and directed our attacking shape, that was elite. Really did live up to his last name in Moses, parting the Red Sea for the full 80 minutes. His kicking game was on point too. I literally couldn't fault the bloke, and alongside Angus Crichton, who for me was a close second, 174 run meters, 9 tackle breaks. I thought both of them were outstanding. Payne Haas, he had his best Origin game yet, almost 200 running meters. Zachy Lomax, he was unreal. Luai, Latrell, Liam Martin, they were all great too. Just a great team performance from the boys in Sky Blue. For the Maroons, I thought there was a few blokes that put their hands up. Paddy Carrigan tried hard all day despite getting put to the bin, and his work rate is through the roof too. Thought Tommy Dearden came up with some good plays defensively, but just didn't have a whole lot of ball. I thought the Hammer, whenever he got his hands on the pill despite being injured, still looked very dangerous. And Ruben Cotter, that bloke's got a motor on him. He'll just go hammer and tongs and run into anything that moves. Loved what he produced, but still, they were just off all night. So no doubt Billy Slater, he'll be giving them one of the great rev-ups. Not angry, just disappointed type of stuff. And it now sets up a real lip licker in a few weeks' time. 17th of July, Wednesday night at Suncorp Stadium. It's going to be a fortress, sold out, packed in maroon, Queensland fans everywhere. Historically, it's not a place that New South Wales go and win many games either, so it really does set up an interesting narrative. You've got a Blues team that was so dominant physically last night and won pretty much 60 of the 80 minutes of that game, up against the Queensland side who will be stinging, backs against the wall. They may even come in as underdogs. They'll be spirited on by a massive Queensland supporter base too. This is going to be a heck of a clash, and I already can't wait for it. Fingers crossed both teams, all players get through the next few weeks injury free. I'm really keen to see what Billy does to this side. There's a few people saying maybe Nathan Cleary comes back for New South Wales. I think he's due to be back fit and healthy, possibly the week before that game. For me though, that's just not enough time in the saddle, and I think after that performance from Moses and Luai, you can't make such a drastic change. It does bring up an interesting point for the future though. When all of them are healthy, what will Madge do? And for me, I think you go Moses at 6 and Cleary at 7, which is bloody harsh on Luai. He's been outstanding this year, but you got to remember he's moving to the West Tigers next year. They're not the greatest footy side. They can string some wins together, and I expect them to be much improved. But as a result of going there from Penrith, his form might drop a little. He might get the Api Coruscant treatment, not quite as in the limelight as you are when you're playing for the big dogs. So I think Moses and Cleary could be our halves combo for the future, and shit does that make me excited. But moving back to the NRL, of course, still so much to cover off there. I'm going to gloss over last week pretty quickly because as a Warriors fan, I don't want to talk about it too much. There were some big results though that I do need to highlight, and one of those sides getting the win was the Tigers. As I just mentioned, 2 on the trot now. They're tracing 3 straight wins for the first time since 2018. And good to see them playing some good code too. They've used 35 players so far this year. They've trotted out a lot of young bucks on debut, given them an opportunity. And I think they've really rose to the occasion and shown that over the next couple years, they could be rapid improvers. Luai, Taruva, both going there as well. Good to see Adam Dewey, Adam Watts doing back on the paddock, scored a nice try too. Galvin, he's just recommitted for a couple years in the Tigers jersey, and he put on another masterclass. Big one for me now though, Stefano Utoikamanu. They need to lock him down. Rumours they've told him he's free to go to the open market and talk to clubs. They want to keep him, but they're not going to stop him from negotiating due to that clause in his contract. He's been insane over the last couple weeks, and if he does walk, shit, that will be another massive loss for the Tigers. Right up there with your Tedescos and your Moses. They've let some bloody good players leave that club over the last few years, and hopefully Stefano, he is not another to add to that list. Shout out to the Rabbitohs, they're firing on all cylinders too. 4 on the trot since getting rid of old JD. They've also 4-0 when they've moved Jack Whiten into the 6th jersey, which I was calling for from day one, so I'll certainly claim that. The Melbourne Storm, blink and you'll miss it. They're back at the top of the competition ladder despite, in my opinion, certainly not having the best team in the comp. No Munster, they've been without Lil Pappy for so long too, but somehow off the back of huge clinics week in and week out, they found themselves at the top of the ladder again, and that was a great win for them and an entertaining game too up against the Finns. What a finish that was. Bums on edges seat stuff, and good to see Tavita Pangai Jr. back too. Flatlining blokes left, right and centre. Shit, does he love the physical stuff. Then Titans Warriors. Not going to touch on this too much. A quick little summary, 66 points to 6. Obviously a disappointing day at the office, probably one of our worst in the club's history. 1-17, no one really stood up and put in a shift that they will be too proud of. Just seemed like the Titans were playing downhill. Keeney, Campbell, Kieran Foran, David Fafita, Chicken Fajita, shit, they all just turned it on. And at the same time, while the Titans were coming last at this stage, they do have a lot of speed, power, and razzle, where if you give them the opportunity to turn it on, they will, and they will make you pay. Alafiana Khan Pereira scoring 4 of the best tries too. The thing that hurt for me the most was the perceived lack of effort and also our completion rate, completing at 69%. And while that's a nice number, if you dish that up at NRL level, you're asking to get a hiding, and that is what we got. It's particularly disappointing too, and really does hurt, because going into that game, we were the team with the highest completion rate in the NRL, so clearly it wasn't our day. We dropped our standards massively, but the best thing about it is we now get an opportunity for redemption this week. The NRL, it's one of those competitions, you show up half-assed, you're going to take your licks, you're going to get put to the sword, but now, quick turnaround, we get to go again, back at home, up against the Broncos, heritage round. I have no doubt the lads are going to be out to prove a point. They're stinging off the back of that loss. It hurt for us as fans, but that doesn't compare to half the hurt that the players go through. So a huge clinic on the way at Go Media Stadium, Saturday Arvo. Can't wait for that. But of course, before that, we have a Friday night fizz up tomorrow night, first game of the round. No Thursday night footy due to State of O. We get to hang around in the glory of that performance for another 24 hours before the Doggies take on the Sharks. I'm liking the look of the Dogs in this one. I think Stephen Crichton will back up, even though it's only 48 hours later, and he's their inspirational skipper. He's their best player too. Whatever he does, they will follow. Unfortunately, they don't have Connor Tracy at the back. Blake Taft comes back in, but interested to see on the extended Remu and a possibility to come back into this side. Jacob Preston, I think he would be a huge inclusion for them, and alongside Viliami Kikau, they would form one of the most dangerous second row combinations in the comp. Sharkies, of course, they'll be well rested. No Origin players out for them, so there'll be a few guys with chip on shoulder. Hines, Cam McInnes and co looking to prove a point. For some reason though, Dogs, great record at a core stadium this year. I'm going to back them in. Upset too. $2.40 underdogs. There's some juicy underdogs this week. Some games that are hard to call, but I'll be getting on the lads from Canterbury, Bankstown. Super Saturday, triple header. What better way to start the day too than the main event, STS feature match. Warriors versus the Broncos. Like I said, heritage game, so we'll be wearing that beautiful Warriors kit. The lads will be rocking up in those heritage polos too if you haven't seen them yet. I bought one yesterday. Geez, are they amazing. Almost fit like a rugby jersey. They'll be great for out on the golf course too, so I recommend copping one if you haven't already, and if the budget allows, of course. For the Broncos, you love to see it. Extended bench is stacked with your Payne Haas, your Paddy Carrigan, your Reece Walsh, the three blokes backing up for them from Origin. But Kevy Walters, he came out earlier and said that Carrigan and Haas definitely won't play, and whether Walshy does will be dependent on how he goes. To me, he looked pretty beat up. Maybe he wants to get back out there pretty quickly and just forget about that game. But at the same time, flying from Brisbane to Melbourne, then back to Brisbane, then to Auckland in such a short window, that is not easy on the body. It certainly doesn't help with your recovery after a bruising game. So I'm hopeful that all three won't play. They'll all be ruled out, and this Broncos team that he's named, 1 to 17, will be the team that trots on to play us. So Tristan Saylor at the back, he's still a threat, and Jesse Arthurs comes back into this team off the back of a broken jaw. I think they've missed him massively, so he will be a great inclusion. They've still got the likes of your Cobbos, your Wham Bam, thank you man, Billy Walters, Pierre Corder, the big fella Xavier Willison gets a start too. Keen to see how he goes, but on paper we should have too much in the duffel bag for this Origin depleted Broncos side. In saying that, you do recall this time last year we took them on down in the Hawke's Bay all day, about 45 streakers, which ruined our momentum as we were coming back into that contest, but they did get the better of us with their B side, so hopefully we're certainly not taking them lightly. For the Warriors, just the one change in its injury force, with Sean Johnson out for the next 4 or so weeks at least. And shout out to SJ, took to social media just to have a crack at a few of the haters, and not so much a crack, but just to say your words don't affect me, but they could affect others. And I think it was a great message that he delivered brilliantly, and the amount of shit he cops is just beyond me, to be fair. He's one of the club's greatest ever players. He was a point off winning the Dally M last year. His form in the early seasons was good despite being injured. Yes, he was the 7 in the team that got pumped on the weekend, but SJ didn't miss those 44 tackles. He didn't let in the 66 points. And much like rugby, if you're a half or a first 5 behind a forward pack that is getting dominated, you don't have any platform to play off, you don't have front foot go forward ball, you're literally on a hiding to nothing. So I don't blame Sean for that loss, but plenty of people do, and they will get their wish this week, which is just disappointing for me as a long-term Warriors fan. It seems like a lot of people are suffering from short-term memory loss, but that's a rant I could go on about for hours. So at the back, Mr. Safe as Houses, Chance Nickel-Klokstad on the wings, welcome back from suspension, the snack, Dallin Watene-Zelezniak, Montoya on the other wing, Roger at right centre, Pompey at left centre, Chanel Harris-Tavita, and Tamaire Martin in the halves. Tohu Harris gets the run-on start at lock, Dylan Walker on the bench. Does he go back to that switch he was making? I personally would like to see it, just for Walks' foot speed and ball playing ability. Big back rowers are back, Mitchy Barnett, aka the Warnett, fresh off riding the pine for 80 minutes. Whenever that push and shove happened in Origin, in my head I just had this image of Mitch just biting on his mouth guard, wanting to get in there so bad. That game last night would have been perfect for him, but he gets an opportunity to show what he's got with Marata Niokore on the other edge. Adam Fanua Blake and Jackson Ford in the props, with Wade Egan Park, the CEO of Ruck Manipulation, in the 9. Then off the bench, Freddie Lussick, Dylan Walker, Jazz Tavanga and Curdy Capewell are Origin lad. Extended, Tommy Ale, Jacob Laban, Ed Kossi, Tain Tuopiki and Moala Graham Tolfa, who I must give a shout out to as well. Man, did he put on a clinic for the New South Wales Cup side, who I believe is on a 5-game winning streak now. Here's his stats from the weekend. Playing centre, 2 tries, 6 tackle breaks, 239 run metres, 62 post contact and 16 tackles. He's certainly putting his hand up to take one of those centre spots while Rocco the Croco Berry is out injured. But for me, I see the Warriors winning this game. I've got plenty of stats to draw on that as well in the punting segment coming up. But last week was a flush. This week we come out and show what we're made of. Our top 8 hopes still well and truly alive. The ladder is so congested. You just need to win 2 or 3 games on the bounce and all of a sudden you're back in or right on the fringe of the 8. So a spirited performance confidence in front of the Mount Smart faithful will get the job done for us. I think our right side is going to have a heck of a day on attack too. Broncos leaking 49% of their tries on that side. So look for Dell, look for Rog, look for Barnett, Tamaida and co. Chanel sweeping out the back to put on a clinic out there. Warriors get the job done in a close game. Just take them head to head. But how bloody good. Then after that, Knights versus Eels. Interesting to see the Eels underdogs, especially with the confidence Mitch Moses would have taken in to this game off the back of last night. The Knights, for me, I don't think they're as legit of a football side as they were last year, so I don't mind getting behind Para. Fletcher Sharp, though, he's a great watch for Newcastle, and I'm excited to see Will Price over from the UK make his NRL debut too at 5'8". He's got massive reps on him. Apparently he's a huge attacking weapon, so keen to see some razzle from the old Prices, right? Then the Melbourne Storm take on the Raiders, a side that Ricky Stewart's lad have had a lot of success against, particularly in Melbourne. They got pumped last week. They played like weak-gutted dogs against the Tigers, so I'm expecting them to bounce back and put in a more spirited shift. At the same time, though, the Storm at Amy Park, you'd have to think they're too good. Plenty of chat that Ryan Pappenhausen might be out for this game. I believe I saw on NRL Physio he's getting injections for an injury in his foot. If that is the case, then shit, the bloke can't catch a break at all. I love watching the flying mullet play, and hopefully he can get back out there. I was interested to see Saw Longall pushed out of the 17 onto the extended Remu too. The old goosey god, if Pappy's out, he's a great straight substitute in, but surely Craig can't continue to leave him out of this team, because he is a heck of a player. Then Super Sunday, Dragons Dolphins, that should be an interesting watch. Can't see the hammer backing up for that one, so maybe that pushes things in favour of the Red V. At the same time though, Dolphins playing so well. I think they've won 5 of their 7 away games so far this year, so certainly don't write them off. Zach Lomax too, if you saw him in Origin, had his leg taped. Apparently he's been draining a bursa injury in there all week, so maybe he doesn't play too. Keep an eye out on those lineups. Panthers versus Cowboys at the foot of the mountain. I think the Panthers will be too strong, but shout out to the Cows too. Now in the 8, and they're a team I've been incredibly harsh on so far this year. Failed to calculate that they hadn't had any buys so far this season prior to last week. They had their first one, still got 2 more to go in the back end of the season, so that's 4 guaranteed points for them. I think they could end up squeaking into the 8 and playing finals football, which will be an interesting watch. And then the final game of the round, speak of interesting watch, Roosters taking on the Tigers. Shit, with the Tigers impressive last week. Adam Dewey in the centres now, which I think is his best position for them moving forward. Roosters, they've been a real roller coaster, the whole Brandon Smith drama, guys backing up too. They've got plenty to play for, so that should be a good watch on your Sunday night as you're hungover, bounced out on the couch, order yourself some Uber Eats and rip in, because that should be a decent game. Finally, before we move on from the NRL as well, just wanted to shout out 2 Mad Dogs that I think deserve some recognition. The first one being the young lad debuting for Canberra, Jordan Martin. What a hairdo that is. One of the game's great mullets. There's plenty of them available to choose from, but if you haven't seen this guy, give him a quick Google search. One of the great profile pictures on the Raiders website, and he just looks like a rugby league handful. He's quickly going to become a cult hero, I believe, so get around him, and hopefully he could bag himself a meaty on debut. That would be unreal. And then Baxter Best, brother of Bradman. I believed he signed to the Broncos, still in high school, but this name came across my desk this week, and I thought that is too good not to bring up. Screams a rugby league footballer. Kid is destined to be a superstar. Bradman Best and Braxton Best. That has to be one of the great brother duos going around. Forget Andrew and Matty Johns. If you're running a Bradman and Braxton, then you're there to play football. So keen to watch his career develop over the next few years. Apparently he said he wants to play for Queensland and Origin too. So maybe they get to go head to head in a few years' time. Interested to see if he matches the brother too. Arm sleeve, leg sleeve, and becomes a weapon. One to watch over the next couple seasons. Congrats to the Blues, Super Rugby champs, 21 years in the making, and shit did they do it in dominant fashion as well. 41 points to 10, a 13-plus win in a final. That is massive scenes. They dominated from the outset, the opening whistle, and to be fair, once you saw weather conditions, a bit of rain in the air, then that really did tilt things in the Blues' favour. The final was pretty underwhelming, to be fair, particularly if you're a neutral fan. The Chiefs, they didn't fire a shot, and at the end of the game in the sheds, they were probably frustrated as shit too. One of those games where you think you have a clear game plan going in, you know how the game wants to play out, none of it goes your way. Before you know it, the full-time whistle's being blown and you've been pumped. A tough night for them. The conditions, they called for a forward-dominated clash, and that's exactly what we've got. This Blues pack this year under Vern Cotter, they've been brilliant all season, and they went to yet another level again in the final. So accurate at set piece, so efficient at ruck time. They kill you at the breakdown. Big, physical, hit hard, carry hard. That's the blueprint really for any team to win any game. At the same time, that's not really that trademark Blues style that we've come to know and love over the last few years. Typically, when you think Blues rugby, you think razzle-dazzle backlines, some of the best finishers in the world, genuine game breakers. They like to throw the ball around, a bit inconsistent week to week. You never quite know what Blues side you're gonna get, but under Stern Vern, they've flipped that completely on their head. They've been so consistent. The game's been built off their defensive pressure and their ability to hold teams to fuck all points. In fact, they won this final series 111 points to 35, I think it was. That just goes to show the age-old adage of defense wins your chips. That's still relevant in today's game. Massive acknowledgement to Vern as well. The fact he's been able to achieve all this as a first-year coach, get buy-in from the leaders, and completely transform the way this Blues team played, that can't be underestimated. A massive performance for him. But the 44,000 faithful at Eden Park, they were treated to a massive performance. The Chiefs, unfortunately for them, they've now lost 3 of their last 4 finals, which has to hurt as well. Your standouts for me, I thought Patrick Tuipolotu, the Undertaker, meant to be out for 8 to 10 weeks, rose from the death and got through 50 to 60 minutes of the best, and they were quality minutes too. He wasn't shying away from the physicality, really leading from the front, and that was a massive performance for a guy that's operating with 3/5 of an MCL. Ricky Riccatelli, heck of a season from him too. I thought he really rose his game to another level in that final series. Was probably someone unlucky to miss out for Razor's squad, but more on that soon. Akira Ioane, he was good too, and good to see him depart as a champ. This Blues franchise means so much to the Ioane brothers. Obviously, Rico had those comments post-game saying that the Super Rugby title for the Blues, winning that meant more to him than winning a World Cup. Perhaps emotions a bit high there. Of course, Rico's never won a World Cup, so maybe he's not the best person to comment on that. At the same time, though, if that's how he feels and that's how important he stacks Super Rugby in amongst his priorities, then well done to them, and great to see Akira get a ring before he departs to Japan after 10 plus years of the best playing for the Blues. A massive knock there for the backs. I thought Harry Plummer, the tradie, hats off to him. He made me eat my hat, that's for sure. Last week on the pod, I was saying in big games where you don't think there's going to be a lot separating sides, my determining factor is who is the best first 5 out there running the cutter, and I went with Damian McKenzie. Turns out it was Harry Plummer. Outstanding shift from him. 16 points, banging them left, right and centre. What a year for the bloke. Probably another that was unlucky not to have his name read out on your Monday night. Another player who's come on leaps and bounds under Vern Cotter, who's obviously created an environment where these guys have been able to take their game to another level, and you love to see that for young plums. I thought AJ Lamb was gun again on the 12 jersey. He certainly has a big future in the midfield, and maybe him and Rico are the combination to take the Blues forward for many years to come. Caleb Clark, 3 meaties, not bad. One he basically tripped over, slid his way over the line. A couple of them he didn't have to do a lot for, but at the same time, I thought he was really busy, and interesting to see him round the fringes a lot. Both him and Mark Talia, multiple pick and go efforts. You love that. Both of them pretty big bodies. Caleb Clark in particular, he's got quads like a loose forward, so clearly that was the tactic from the Blues. take on the Chiefs, up the guts, not allow them to play that razzle-dazzle expensive type of footy. And overall, you just got the feeling perhaps the boys from the Waikato, they played their final the week before, didn't have too much left in the tank, while at the same time, it was the Blues' time to win the comp. For me, they've been the best team all year, undefeated at home, only dropped the 2 games all season, had the best points for and against in the comp too by 56. So, well done to them. Credit where credit is due. A massive dub. And shit did it look like they celebrated too, which was bloody good to see. Moving on to your All Blacks, and of course Razor's first squad, named on the Monday night, has dominated the headlines since then. The biggest takeaways for me: 5 debutants or potential debutants as well, when they get their opportunity, is going to be really interesting. You'd have to think these first 2 England games, Razor will keep it pretty run-of-the-mill, but potentially that Fiji game over in the States, if we can get off to a good start, then you might see a few of these guys earn their first caps off the Remu. First bolter, Tossie, well done to him. Got the opportunity in the first place due to Xavier Numia being unavailable due to injury. It was interesting to hear Razor said it was like an episode of Maths when Jason Ryan and Tossie first met. He said it was love at first sight. Probably not the greatest example from Razor, because 90% of those relationships fail. In fact, I think Brett and Angel, season 1, only New Zealand couple to still be going and survive the test of time. So shout out to them. So hopefully this isn't a relationship that doesn't go the distance like those ones that we've seen on Maths. At the same time, you get the point that Razor was trying to put across, and I do think it could be a little bit of a changing of the guard as to how we prioritise our props. Tossie, he's a huge human being, really strong at set piece too, but at the same time, he's got that ability to ball play. He's your modern day prop, got good ball skills, he can throw a nice seed, nice little tip balls, and still be physical too. When you look around the world at the top teams in the competition at the moment, your South Africas, your Islands, they're running out hybrids. I like to call them Priuses all over the show. They can do the tough shit, but they can play that expensive type of football and have the skill set to be able to execute it as well. So great to see him get the nod. George Bell, he's your next debutant, another young bull getting a crack. Was a little surprised, no Ricky Riccatelli, but when you look at Bell's age and the fact that he was involved in those pre-World Cup camps last year, then I guess the writing was on the wall there. Wallace Satiti, touch more on that shortly, but well done to him. Cortez Ratamat, Billy Proctor, the 2 new faces in the backs. I think everyone saw that one coming. And I was interested to see as well the lads that were named on cover duties too. So they're not in the squad officially, but they are in the camp. Razor, he was told to name 32. He's named 37. Bloody crafty of him, but he's named Sam Derry as your lock cover. Of course, only the 3 locks named. So if one goes down, Derry will come straight in. Ruben Love, he's your 15 cover. So clearly, Razor, he decided to roll the dice. He's gone with 3 10s rather than a specialist fullback. Of course, D-Mac, Bodie Barrett, Stephen Petafeta, they can all play first 5, but none of them are genuine starting international 15s. They all play their best football in the 10 jersey, in my opinion. Of course, Will Jordan out at the moment, so clearly he is our go-to guy. But I think Razor did show at the same time, Ruben Love, another notch down from those 2 in his books. And then clearly, my mate, Sean Stevenson, gutted to see it, but he's fairly low in Razor's rankings. And the 5th option, you'd have to think, for fullbacks at the moment at All Black level, which is a real tough pill to swallow. George Bauer, he's also involved in this camp. That makes it 7 props on deck. So clearly they're just going to be scrummaging the shit out of each other in anticipation for a big England forward pack. And then David Harville, he's the only one from last year's World Cup squad that was available for selection not to make the team. So it was fairly standard stuff from Razor when you look at last year's team compared to this year's team. I'm interested to even see Harville in the mix, to be fair. I thought he had a pretty average Super Rugby season, a lot of it hampered by injury, and his versatility really does promote him above a lot of other footballers. And then Peter Lakai, he's there as an apprentice type player, which suggests when the squad goes to 36 for the Rugby Championship, those are the guys that are going to come in, not your Hoskins Sotutus. So again, another interesting point in terms of how Razor sees things going forward, and an indication there. Your biggest snubs for me, obviously Hoskins is the one getting all the press at the moment, and fair enough too. From a personal point of view, I was gutted for Shooter. Both of them nominated for Super Rugby Players of the Year, but it appears they've really slid down Razor's rankings, and he doesn't have them in his plans at this stage anyway. On that, I was surprised to see Perifeta make it. Rate him as a footballer, but I did think this year wasn't his best, and I actually had Harry Plummer above him in your power rankings. But again, Razor clearly has a game plan. There's a method behind his madness, and he has enough success on his CV for me to be able to say it is what it is, and you back him in Razor we trust. But onto that Sotutu versus Satiti debate. I've actually crunched the numbers here, so let's see how they stack up, because I do think it is bloody interesting, and sometimes the numbers, they can tell a tale as well as a bit of logical thinking as well. So Hoskins, he scored 12 tries this year, tied first overall in Super Rugby, the highest scoring forward and the tied highest scoring forward in Super Rugby history, the first non-hooker to score 12 tries as well. So with ball in hand, close to the line, he's a wrecking ball and he can't be stopped. He also racked up 8 try assists. That's the highest for a forward in the competition. He was ranked second in the comp overall with offloads with 21. He was tied for 5th with most carries. He was 8th in lineouts won and was the top Kiwi lineout taker as well with 46. He was top 20 in the comp for tackles made and top 5 for total rucks hit, which kind of surprised me a little bit, because I did hear Razor say his work rate on both sides of the ball is what cost him an opportunity ahead of Wallace. Maybe I thought he wasn't that active around the paddock. Perhaps it's his work defensively, but top 5 for total rucks hit certainly suggests that he rolled up his sleeves this year. Wallace Satiti, though, he averages 6 more carries a game than Hoskins, and as a result averages 22 more average run meters per game as well. 3.4 defenders beat him per game and 1.05 line breaks per game. That's higher than both Hoskins, Luke Jacobson and Ethan Blackadder. Then operates at a 90% successful tackle rate, which is outstanding. And Razor mentioned as well, every time the stage has got bigger, he's got better. 21 years old, and he's an extremely exciting prospect. So for me, when you compare the two, there's no wrong answer. Both are elite number 8s, and Wallace's ability to play number 6 as well, that might have been what got him over the line. When you look at all the loose forwards Razor has selected, your Blackadders, your Luke Jacobson, Wallace Satiti, Dalton Papali'i, Adi Savia, they all have the ability to cover multiple positions. Perhaps the fact that Hoskins is a specialist number 8 came back to hurt him a little more there. At the same time, I'd hate to see us lose him in the future. He did just re-sign with New Zealand Rugby for another 2 years, which makes him missing the All Black squad even more interesting, but I believe he's eligible to play for Fiji next year too. So while that would be exciting for this Fijian side, I really do hope we can keep him in the All Black mixer. I did mention before, a bit of logic perhaps came into this decision for Razor as well, and I do genuinely think you have to factor in the possibility that either Wallace or Hoskins might not have got onto the paddock in this series with Artie a clear starting number 8. So in that sense, is it smarter to have someone like Satiti, who's only 21 years old, still young, still fresh, still coming on in his rugby career, chuck him in the camp, he's going to learn and develop so much and get better as a footballer? Is it better to have him in the environment than someone like Hoskins, who's still young but a little bit older, probably has less to learn, has been in that All Blacks environment before? I do genuinely think that would have factored into his decision as well, because realistically, unless we're pumping Fiji, I don't think Wallace sees the park, and I don't think Hoskins would have either. So a tough one there, a real coin toss. People you speak to, they go either ways on that opinion. You do genuinely have to feel sorry for Hoskins, though. If I was him personally, I'd be sitting at home watching that All Black announcement, pretty dejected, thinking, what more can I do? Because I've literally had one of the best seasons for a forward in Super Rugby in recent memory, in my opinion. Anyway, interesting to see the Māori side named as well, and a lot of people have messaged me around Shooter, who is not in the side. He's actually taken a few weeks to rest up the hammy. There's a quick turnaround for those Māori boys. They're playing Japan this weekend, pretty short and sharp campaign. They're already on a plane to get over there, and I think it would have been a pretty brutal turnaround off the back of losing a final. You went into the game not 100% with your hammy too. Don't quite get the nod for ABs. You can certainly understand why the kid needs a couple weeks, clear the head, get the body right ahead of a huge NPC campaign for the mighty Harbour Heat. So overall, pretty strong All Black team. When you look at it on paper, there's not a lot of clinks in our armour there. Going to be an interesting series up against the English. Of course, we'll preview that first test on next week's pod, but overall, fairly run-of-the-mill stuff. Excited to see what Razor can do with this team. And hopefully those lads who did miss out on selection continue to put their hands up, playing for their various teams, and force their way in to that rugby championship side that'll get named in a couple weeks' time. Then lastly, before we move on from your rugby, just wanted to shout out that it was great to see a couple of All Blacks returning back to New Zealand rugby via some grassroots code. We had Bodie a couple weeks ago lacing up in the Naki, and now we had Ardy last weekend running amok. His team poured on 90 points in the Wellington comp. I think he plays for Oris, scored 2 tries, probably 4,000 plus PCMs. I saw one photo where there was literally about 4 blokes attempting to tackle him, but half of them were actually tackling their own teammates. So you don't know if they were genuine attempts or they just wanted to say to their kids in 10 years' time that they had a go tackling the best player in world rugby. You love seeing this stuff though. 2 of the best players in the world going back to their club for a trot. This is massive for the game at the grassroots level. No doubt both players would have drawn decent crowds along as well. Ardy saw post-game, he ripped into a saucy sizzle, put 500 on the bar for the after-match too. Saucies and schooners, that is what it's all about. So shout out to you, Bodes, and shout out to you, Ardy. 2 of the greats going back to give back to their club where it all began. You got to love to see that, and hopefully it's a sign of the times. Would love to see plenty more players do this. Once Super Rugby's finished, go back, apply their trade at club level, rip in and get bums on seats. You beauty. Punting chat time now, and of course shout out to the TAB. Hope you made the most of that code last weekend, got yourself some bonus cash. Wasn't the result we expected, but still, bonus cash is bonus cash, and you absolutely take that every day of the week. Shout out to them, of course, though. It's the home of sport and racing punting here in New Zealand, the home of the Surly Boost too. There's power plays, there's promos galore, so make sure you check them out. Download the app or head along to their website, www.tab.co.nz. If you are having a flutter this weekend, that's the place to do it. We gamble responsibly, of course, but we have a bit of fun with it as well. Tonight, Friday night footy kicks off. No more bye round this week, of course. Origin, she was last night. Now we get to sink our teeth into the good stuff. You got the Doggies taking on the Sharks in what should be a bloody good game. Doggies $2.45, Sharkies $1.55. The Dogs, they've won their last 5 games at Accor Stadium, which of course is where this game is being played. Stephen Crichton, he's named to back up, so I think he gives them a massive boost. Hopefully he can do so. He scored 11 tries in his 14 games at home, and Matty Burden will be stinging off the back of missing out on that State of Origin squad. He scored 8 tries in his last 10 games too, in a rich vein of form. I really like the Doggies in this one. I keep mentioning I'm not sold on the Sharkies still. They haven't quite ticked all the boxes for me. Dogs, they were underwhelming last week, and they'll be stinging off the back of that result. So I'm going to back them in. Dogs get the win, and I like Burton anytime to keep that impressive run alive. Super Saturday, where better to spend your day than the Fortress, the home of rugby league in New Zealand. Of course, the great stadium, that is Go Media, Mount Smart. Warriors, underdogs, $2.25, hook it to my veins. The Broncos, Kevy Walters lads, $1.65 favourites. The Wars, it's not pretty reading for us in the stats department. We've only won 2 of our 6 games at home this season. The Broncos have won 3 of their last 4 games against us, but they have lost the last 3 straight. So I love the Warriors here, well and truly jumping on board. Got a couple stats for you as to why you should do the same too. Really niche stats too. So teams that have conceded 66 plus points the week before, since 2008, have gone 9-0 the week after against the line. So I love that. We're guaranteed to cover, so jump on that. Broncos, they've lost their last 3 games as favourites. 1-12, they come in favourites here. And the underdog has won 8 of the last 9 games between these two sides. We're the underdog, so we're about to make that 9 from 10. Get up the mighty Wars. In terms of your try scorers, Dallin Watene-Zelezniak loves playing the Broncos, loves scoring a meaty on them. He scored 5 in his last 3 games. Plus, you add in the factor as well that the Broncos have conceded 49% of their tries this year on their left side defensively, which means that our right side is going to be humming. Dell, Roger, they're going to have a field day. I'm backing in the snack off the back of a 1-week suspension. No better way. Suspension, redemption, meaty. Tick, tick, tick. Warriors into Dell, $3.23. Rugby league cents. Knights taking on the Eels. Knights favourite, $1.78 at home, up against Trent Barrett's side. The current wooden spooners paying $2.05. The Knights, they haven't won at home since round 9 when they bet the Warriors. The Eels, they've lost all 6 games away from home though, so someone is going to snap that streak. The Knights, they've lost their last 6 games to the Eels, so really contradicting stats there. Dane Gagai, he scored 6 tries in his last 6 games against the Eels. And King Gutherson, he scored 6 tries in his last 6 against the Knights. So a couple nice try scorer stats for you there. For some reason, I'm getting pulled towards Para. Don't know why. They're coming last. For me, the Knights, though, I don't think they're the real deal at all. Mitchie Moses, Gutherson, Blaze Talangi, Dylan Brown, Regan Campbell-Gillard. I just think the Eels have the better team on paper, so I'm going to back them in. Juicy underdogs at $2.05. Storm versus Raiders, another one where the stats really contradict what you are thinking as well. Storm $1.17 favourites at home. Raiders, the Green Machine, the Canberra Milk, paying $5. The Storm have won 6 of their last 8 games against the Raiders, but the Raiders have won 5 of their last 6 games at Amy Park, which is normally a no-go zone for Melbourne. No team rocks up there and comes away with the chocolates, but clearly Ricky Stewart, there's something in the water each week they head over to the Storm, because they've been pulling off the wins as of late. Can they do it again? $5. That is massive outsider. Xavier Coates, he scored 29 tries in 24 games at home. And the Storm, they've been a bit off defensively too. Pretty uncharacteristic for them. They've conceded at least 24 points in each of their last 4 games. For me, though, you got to back the Storm in. I do think they will be too strong. Jerome Hughes, Ali Katoa, both great try-scoring options, as is the Brick. So chuck them in your same game multis. Remember, if it misses by 1 on a 3+ legger, you get your money back as bonus cash. How good is that? Super Sunday, triple header, you're hungover, on the couch, feed up, treat yourself to some Uber Eats and rip in, because there's 3 great games here. You got the Dragons taking on the Finns. Dragons $1.87 home favourites. The Finns $1.94. The Dragons, though, they've conceded 122 points in their last 4 home games. The Dolphins, they've won 5 from 7 away from home this year. Zach Lomax, he scored 48 points in his last 2 home games, and the Hammer, he scored 9 tries in his last 7 games. I love the Finns here. I think they're made of the right stuff. I like the cut of their jib so far this year, so I'm going to back the Dolphins to get the win. Hammer and Lomax as my same game multi there. Panthers versus Cowboys. Surely Panthers get this one done. $1.28 favourites up against the Cows, paying $3.80. Panthers have won 14 of their last 16 games at home. Cowboys haven't won at the Panthers home ground since 2016 either. Jerome Hughes, he's won his last 5 straight against the Cowboys, and Brian To'o, he scored 23 tries in his last 17 games at home. So Panthers into To'o. That sounds like a great bet to me. And then finally, to round us out, potential upset here, because the Roosters, they are so unpredictable, much like the song written by Jamie Foxx, Let's Get Unpredictable. One of the great tunes. Really did love that one. I think 3rd or 4th form Westlake boys, that was blasting through my old iPod mini. Great times that was. But the Roosters, they won their last 7 games against the Tigers and 17 of their last 18. The Tigers, they're aiming for 3 straight wins for the first time since 2018 as well. I do do think this one will be a bridge too far, but I am rooting for the Tigers in the sense of that is the team I'd like to see them win, figuratively, not literally. So Roosters there to get the dub. Adam Watt's doing to make it back-to-back meaties in consecutive weeks. Jump on the kid. Then, before we wrap up your punting, wanted to jump across to some rugby too, and you may be saying, Surly Horse, Super Rugby's over. There's no All Blacks game this week. What possibly could you be punting on? Well, being the degenerate I am, the real sicko, I've had a look ahead at the All Blacks futures markets, and there's a couple options I really like. Of course, we're $1.12 favourites at the moment for that first game against England next weekend at Forsyth Bar. England playing $5.50 head to head. I don't think we'll lose, but at the same time, I think that's very disrespectful numbers. The line is 14.5 as well. Historically, the All Blacks start their test campaigns pretty slow. First test of the year, expect a bit of rust. So maybe that line is something you look at. For me, though, it's more the future markets that I really like and the All Blacks season markets, which are available on the TAB app. The ones that have caught my attention, New Zealand season win bands, where you can pick how many wins we will have from our 14 tests this year. They're in bands. You can go 0 to 5, 5 to 7, 7 to 9, 10 to 11, 12 to 13. I'm sure you're picking up what I'm putting down there. The band which really appeals to me, I like us to win 12 to 13 games, paying $2.75. And here's my logic behind it. I think we sweep England. I think we dispose of Fiji. I think we beat Argentina back to back. Then we go over to South Africa to play them back-to-back, which is not going to be easy. So we drop one of those games over there. Then we smoke Aussie, and then we drop one on the northern end of year tour to either Ireland or France. That would give us 12 wins, which would give us a tick on that 275, 12 to 13 win bracket. It would also mean if we don't drop a game in the north, or we win both on the road in South Africa, 13 wins, and we're still a winner there. If you want to go really specific, you can go on the exact number of wins too. And if you're like me and you think 12 is jumping out, $5 on the nose. That's some good coin there. You can also get on your top try scorers for the season for the All Blacks. And here, I think you have to avoid your wingers. Razor, he's picked 4 genuine winger options. Plus, he's got Rieko Ioane there. If he wants to mix things up a little and give Anton a start in the 13. So there's too many options for Razor to pick from. There's going to be a bit of rotation. So my best bets here, I like Cody Taylor at $8. Rolling maul bet, you think England, it's going to be tight, set piece, lots of line-out drives. Fiji, potential for some driving, rolling maul tries there. Then I also like Bodie Barrett as an outsider paying 19s, particularly if he's going to start the majority of games at fullback. And then as your outsider, I like Ardie Savea at $31, and I was really surprised to see him priced higher than your likes of your Billy Proctors and players like that who I genuinely don't expect to get much game time. The fact that Ardie's going to be starting in the 8 jersey for the majority of the games and playing big minutes. He's part of the leadership group. He's going to be a crucial part of this team. $31 for him. He's bloody hard to stop close to the line. Often finds himself hanging out in the wider channels too. I think that is a great bet. So, in summary, 12 to 13 wins bracket for your All Blacks at $2.75. And Cody Taylor as your top try scorer, $8. Love that there. Your bet of the week this week, 12 from 17 on these now. Not the greatest, back-to-back losses, so I'm looking to right some wrongs there, but still running at a 70.5% click. I think that is pretty good going. So last week, of course, I had either team to win by 7.5 points or under in your Super Rugby final. That did not salute. Tough blow to take. Blues with the blowout. Not great for the bet slips, but bloody good if you are a Blues fan. This week, I'm going back to the Wars, and I'm sure a lot of you are rolling your eyes in the back of your head saying, Surly Horse, why do you do it to yourself? But like I mentioned before in the punting segment, the odds suggest the Wars are going to bounce back. I like us plus 3.5. That line that is on offer, $1.96. I'm scoffing that up. Chuck it on a plate. Valentine's buffet type of stuff. Get up the Wars. We cover that line. So that is my bet of the week for this week. Warriors plus 3.5, paying $1.96. Then onto your Magic multi. This is where we get a bit Ivan Leary, and it's fair to say I've certainly done that. I've gone with 3 underdogs, all to win, 1 to 12 margins in your rugby league football. Warriors 1 to 12, Bulldogs 1 to 12, Parramatta Eels 1 to 12. Follow at your own risk. $39.74 she's paying, so $397.40 of the best. That'll be making its way onto my bet slips when I gamble responsibly, and fingers crossed she's a win for the Magic multi. Green ticks on bet slips, that's what we're about, so hopefully this punting segment has helped guide you into some winners. We'll be back next week to recap, of course, but hopefully a successful weekend on the old Carmichael punt. Q&A time, and as always, chucked up the question box on my story yesterday, and plenty of you had some doozies for me, so let's sink the teeth into those. First one, start one, bench one, cut one, all in prime form. Julian Savea, Joe Rokothoko, and Sitiveni Sivivatu. Shit, that is hard. 3 of the great players of Island heritage as well. Peak Julian literally lived up to his nickname, the Bus. He was literally unstoppable. I think that Rugby World Cup where he just destroyed teams left, right and centre. He was almost mini Jonah and one of the great players in world rugby. Joe Rokothoko, always loved watching him. His razzle, the way he glided, reminds me a bit of the Hammer, to be fair. Could change direction at full speed, great footwork, one of those Fijian flyers. And then Sivivatu, he was always so underrated for me, a real attacking weapon, ripped up for the Chiefs on multiple occasions too. I think for me, prime, I would start Joe Rokothoko, I would bench Julian Savea, and then I would cut Sitiveni Sivivatu, but that is bloody hard. Another name to chuck in the mixer, purely just because of Joe Rocks and Sivivatu, got me thinking Fijian Flyers. Rupeni Niambutha, remember him for the Blues. Shit, he was one of my favourite players to watch, that is for sure. But a great question there, Jared. Interested to hear your guys' start, bench, cut out of those 3 too. For me, it's one of those ones where there's no right or wrong answer, but still intrigued to see what the public think. Next one, what All Blacks or New Zealand Sevens player would you have loved to see represent their island heritage from past eras? This one's another doozy. You guys are back fencing it here today. In terms of All Blacks or New Zealand Sevens players, I would have loved to see, and this is still current, I'd love to see Ardie Savea go back and play for Samoa, and even more, I'd love to see him play for the Moana Pacifica, and there's rumours that this could be a possibility in the years to come. I think that's exactly what Moana needs, a player of Ardie's calibre to go there. He'd get to play with his brother and Julian too, so it's got that sentimental value, plus it would be the closest he could get to representing his island heritage. Then, off the back of that, I reckon you get your Ngāni La Mapes, your Peter Aki, Bundy Aki, so much easier to recruit names like that. Tavita Lee playing in Japan. The world would be their oyster, and I think it would help their recruitment so much. But in terms of All Blacks or New Zealand Sevens players, I'd love to see represent their island heritage. I think Tana would have been sick, Jonah, guys like that who probably could have changed the narrative earlier. Now we see players starting to do it more. Your Lima Sopowangas, Charles Piatel, Malakai Fekatoa, Israel Folau, they've all gone back to represent their island heritage, but you do have to wonder, say a Tana or a Jonah did it early, from there I think it could have started a real landslide a lot earlier than it's happened. Another current one, Akira Ioane, seeing him play for his island heritage too, purely because the All Blacks didn't really use him over the last couple years, so I guess he'll be eligible in a few years' time. I think that could be a great get. Hoskins Satutu, like I touched on before, he'll become eligible. Peter Gusso, cooler too. So plenty of players that island nations are going to be able to pick from over the next few years, and that is going to be massive for their rugby. Next one comes through from the real Mick Deasy. Great question this. Who are 2 guys that missed out on the All Blacks squad that you think could benefit from a code change? And I feel like this is a topic that always comes up every year. Which rugby players would we like to see jump across to the NR NRL. And so often we talk about it, but no one really seems to be doing it from New Zealand anyway. We've had Carter Gordon do it over there, going from the Wallabies into the Titans. Mark Ngawanganeto'asi going from the Wallabies to the Roosters too. So maybe that inspires a few Kiwi footy players to do the same. For me, of course, biased opinion, but I would love to see Sean Stevenson give it a crack. And there were those rumours around a year back or so that the Dolphins were keen on Shooter. I think he'd be perfect for the game. His body frame, his skill set, ball playing ability, the razzle that he has, attacking flair. I think he'll go great guns at the NRL. I could see him playing in the halves, as a 6, in the centres, at fullback or on the wing. Incredibly versatile, and I'd love to see Shoots wear that Warriors logo in particular. I think he would be a great get. Then for your forwards, I know you said 2 players in total. I've already named one, but I'm going to cheat here a little. I think 2 young lads who missed out from the Wellington region would go great as well. And Duplessis Karefi and Braden Yosse. Both of them big bodies. They're powerful athletes. They've got some footwork, good ball playing abilities. They both hit hard, big engines, big motors, powerful. And I think they both would make great second row options in rugby league. So if neither of those get a crack over the next couple years, I'd like to see them make the jump to God's game as well. So to answer your question, Shooter as a back and then as a forward, I'd probably go with Duplessis or Braden Yosse when we're speaking strictly in terms of players that missed out from Razor's first 32. Next question, who becomes the Warriors' new captain when Tohu retires? All bets on Mitch Barnett, and that comes through from the Strictly Wars pod. Yeah, look, that's a great shout. I did notice against the Storm a few weeks back when Tohu was on the bench, Wade Egan led them out, but I still think Barnett would be more of that leader. We saw him captain that Cowboys game as well, I believe it was, plus the Panthers game when Tohu was out. So I do think Barnett, one of those guys who leads more through his actions rather than his words, but at the same time his leadership has come on leaps and bounds since arriving here from Newcastle. Great to see him extend too. He is every bit our captain of the future. So I agree with you, Mitchie Barnett, him or Wade Egan Park to lead us to the promised land. NZ Warriors Faithful says thoughts on Lakers hiring JJ Redick. Personally, I actually really like this decision. It is an interesting one, of course. Very recently retired as a player, runs a podcast with LeBron James, so many people are saying he just got it because he's LeBron's mate, and I'm sure that did factor in his chemistry with the team's best player. You'd be stupid to say that that didn't play a part. At the same time, though, when you listen to him in commentary on the broadcast, he's just so smart. He talks about the game, he sees it as a player does still, but he's able to articulate it a way that a coach would. I think he's the perfect modern day coach, of course, still incredibly young, has the respect of the players from a playing point of view, and I think some of his ideas, the way he talks about the game, the passion that he has for it, and the want to win, you can tell he stings that he didn't win a ring as a player, so he'll be fired up to get the job done. Also saw he's dropping F-bombs in his press conferences, so I love that too. The bloke's as raw as it comes, so I hope he's successful in his first stint. It is a bit chucked in the deep end. I think currently he coaches his son Knox's under-12s team or something like that, so that's his only real coaching experience. So what a gig to get first up, one of the most powerful sporting organisations in the world. But hey, sink or swim, and I think JJ has the ability to swim, so looking forward to seeing how that goes. And his relationship with Bron, hopefully that just stays great. It's going to make for some interesting podcasts too, and good to see podcasters getting head coaching gigs. Maybe Warriors coach in the future for me after I retire from the one take pod. Webby, I'll come on as an assistant horse. Don't you worry, mate, you can keep the top gig. Interesting times in the world of the NBA too, and that's why we love it so much. The NBA doesn't sleep. Bridges traded to New York for a shit ton of picks. Then you got OG extending as well. Trades happening left, right, and centre. So get up the NBA. Shit, is she great entertainment. But cheers for all your questions. Really appreciate them as always. We go again next week. 6 more. Right, that's us for another episode of STS, another David Longy, a big podcast, but plenty to cover off, so hopefully you've enjoyed it, and as always, cheers for your ears. Shout out to the TAB, remember to use that code STS50, chuck it in the bonus cash section to get yourself some bonus cash off the back of betting on that Warriors versus Broncos game. There was a Surly boost coming too, so you can jump on that, get yourself some bonus cash, and then you can spend that elsewhere wherever you like. like it's a real two birds, one stone type of operation, and we're grateful for their support. Shout out to Better Bear too. Remember, cold Better Bears, fresh out the fridge, crack one open, watch your sport, nothing better. UFC on Sunday as well, a card that got decimated by injuries, no Connor, no Carlos Oldberg, but still a great excuse to have a few tinny lalas responsibly and enjoy everything that has to offer. I'll be back out, same time, same place next week, so enjoy your sport, enjoy your rugby league. See you at Mount Smart if you're getting along. Up the mighty Wars, baby. Famous bounce back dub on ways. And of course, up the New South Wales Blues.